Hi. Thank you so
Hi.
much for doing this with me. I really appreciate it. You've been so lovely this whole process.
This is so neat. I'm really thankful that I saw that you were doing this, and it aligns with a lot of the work that I'm doing too. So I'm really
Oh, that's great.
looking forward to like get
Yeah.
into it.
You are Mandee Sheeler, correct?
Yes.
And you are on what platforms are you on currently? You're on Instagram at Mandee Sheeler, and you have a website, mandeesheeler.com. So tell us a little bit about what your website offers or what's on there.
So right now it's my biography, a little bit about my background, kind of how I started, people that I've trained with, people that I've studied. And then my offerings right now are donation-based natal chart delineations is really what I've been doing, and some transit, like some transit consultations, but I'm finding that as I'm doing these consultations, and I don't know if it's like because it's for donation only, that there's like not that pressure, but the conversations that I'm having with people, a lot of them are talking of like, what is astrology? How do you use it? Like, what questions can I even ask you? And so then because a lot of people are, I'm interested, but I don't even know what I'm interested in.
What is this all about?
Like what questions are available, right? Because it is so nuanced and deep and wide and vast that you can, and I tell people that, we can touch on really anything. There are things that I feel better qualified to speak on than other people, but there's like Super Bowl astrology going on right now.
Oh
right?
my gosh.
Like,
I haven't even thought about that, but it is, we have a Venus Mars thing going on right now, which is kind of cool. Valentine's Day, interesting stuff. So I love that a lot of like new interested people are coming to you. And that is a tough question to answer. Like, what can I find out from you? What can you see in there? Because it is a lot, but I think that's a really cool thing that you do, that you're kind of like the first step for like new people. How and when were you introduced to astrology?
So before I jumped on here, I was revisiting the questions, and this one, you sent them to me, and I looked at them, and I had an answer, and then revisiting, I was like, oh right, okay. So there are two major moments in my life that stand out to me. The first one, I was like 8 or 9 years old. So my mom, a little backstory, my mom had me. She got pregnant with me at 16, had me at 17. She and my father got divorced. Probably wasn't by their choosing or the best decision. They ended up. It was, so my mom had these interesting approaches to dating back then. So she found these books and like different approaches, and in one of the books she found, I have this specific copy of it. It's like the birthday book or something.
Oh my God, that was my first astrology book too.
Yeah,
that is the book.
Yeah, right. So I was like 8 or 9, and my mom's like talking about it and into it, but she just kind of she showed it to me, but didn't really explain what was going on. So my best friend, who I'm still friends with to this day, we've been friends for like 25 years, which is crazy. And she remembers this. My mom left the room, and we picked up the book, and we're like flipping through it, and what's your birthday? What's my birthday? And we found like, and I haven't looked at this book in a really long time, but how it said, like the people that you're most compatible with, and my friend's birthday, like we were on each other's pages, right? And so we're like, oh my God, is this so cool? So that was like a really profound moment, but a very young moment, right? And so from then it was like, I'd get the teen magazines, and I was more interested in the astrological thing. There's like a page, right? And it's everybody divided on, it's a 1/12 of a page. Let's be serious. And then through my younger days, I would pick up a book here and there, and so there's always been like a theme. So, and then this is the moment, I remembered that moment originally. So the moment that came to me right before we got on here was my very first salon job. So I've been a hairdresser for the last 10 years, and I quit COVID things, which we can get into. My very first salon, the owner of that salon gave me an astrology report by Adrian Duncan. Are you familiar with those?
No.
So they're really cool. I actually just got another one because they're just so neat to have, but it's like a 30-40 page breakdown of your astrology chart, and it's kind of cookbooky, but not. There's more depth to it, but it's pretty generic stuff, but it's really good stuff for somebody.
So your boss gave this
that to me.
What? they're just into astrology and they were like, listen, here you go.
Yeah. And we were hairdressers. And so we would talk about, like, my boss told me that he would approach he would, hey, what's your name? Where are you from? What's your birthday? And he would kind of approach certain clients with certain sun signs, because that's all we really got, with a different like flavor than he maybe would somebody else. And so I just always thought that was really cool and neat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then the pandemic happened and I had some personal transits that just kind of blew my head open, and now I'm here. Yeah.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
So how long were you a hairdresser before you said 10 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I started doing hair. I apprenticed to do hair, and that took me about 2 years. And then I worked at my first salon for a really long time. We were one of the top salons in our city, and it was a great experience and I loved it. And then I had a baby. I have a kid who's 7, and I had a kid and my priorities shifted, and I was able to be like an independent contractor, a booth renter, hairdresser, and make better money than working in a salon environment. So I did that for, all in all, it was like 10, 11 years. I was at my first salon for like 4 or 5. And then I worked for myself like 5 or 6 years. Yeah. And then the pandemic happened and we got shut down. And I started listening to the Astrology Hub podcast back when Anne Ortley first started talking with Amanda about the pandemic. And then that's another moment that I really was like, okay, there's something more here.
Got it. Yeah. So it was sort of like following you throughout your life every now and again, and it would pop up, and then the pandemic sort of just like kickstarted you deeper down the hole.
Yeah.
Are you doing astrology stuff full time?
No, so I'm a mom and I've always homeschooled my kiddo. So I have a pretty like heteronormative life. Like I have a husband that works outside of the home, and I'm privileged enough to be able to stay home and devote myself to my studies. It is, and it's a privilege that the privilege is just, it's insane.
So that's great. I'm really happy that you have that option. It feels really good to not have to, have the pressure of work when you're especially raising a kid, which is already a full-time job. So so do you think, like you said, like the pandemic really just threw you into astrology more? You said you were listening to Anne Ortley talk about it, and was that like the moment that you were like, okay, well, I want to have a website, I want to kind of like get really into this, because it's just so amazing. I know what was going on astrologically in the transits to, create the pandemic, and realizing that is very convincing, you know what I'm saying? So when you realize there was a Pluto Saturn node situation going on, and it completely validates, the pandemic, it's just amazing. So is that when you created your website and decided to do services?
No, so now I'm trying to think, because it's all happened so quickly. And so we've just been in this, plus Pisces moon, I tend to kind of get lost in this like whatever. So I started listening to the podcast, and it sparked, okay, I'm shut down, I can't work, I'm going to dig deeper into my chart. And I started digging deeper into my chart by doom scrolling late at night. Isn't that where
relatable?
So I started doom scrolling, and I'm laying in bed, and I'm like on some fucked up, sorry, I don't know.
Sorry, no worries.
Okay. So fucked up website. It's just looking back, we'll get to that. So I found this website, and it said that based on this placement that I have, that like I should never be around guns. Well, we have a gun in our home, like for self-protection. I'm not a big gun, and I'm gonna you're gonna die in this horrible, horrendous firearm accident. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's
what in your chart?
It had to do with my Aquarius Mars, I think. Maybe in the 6th house. I don't remember if that was part of it or not. But I know for a fact it was Aquarius Mars, which is just interesting because Mars is not unhappy in the 6th house at all.
Right. That's the joy.
And I 2 years later, I know that, right? But so being who I am, I found this piece of information, and I freaked out, and I probably lost like 3 weeks of my life, paranoid and freaking. Like I'm already a high-strung person anyways. We're in the middle of this pandemic and nothing feels safe. There's no sense of security in anything. And then I've just been told that I'm gonna die in this like crazy accident. Yeah, and leaving the house is already like scary enough, right? Or like made to, so So I read that and I had my time with that. And after I got over it, I realized that I never wanted anyone to feel the way that I felt.
Yes, yes, yes. That, I mean, I can relate. You read something. I'm sure there's so many instances of astrologers being kind of irresponsible in that way and just freaking people out based on one thing in their chart without looking at the entire thing, and that you don't know enough about it to dispute it. And then you're like, what? You know, and you have to figure it out. Like, is this really true? And that's something that I'm really glad you brought up. But it kind of forced you to look deeper at your chart and realize, okay, well, that probably was a little bit crazy to say. Do you know the website that you saw that on?
No, I don't. And you know, I mean, because as soon as I read it, I like threw my phone and I was like,
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah. I've had
Nothing's safe.
moments like that. Yeah, for sure. So that's really crazy.
And I miss talking to people. And one of the things that I realized during my time away from hair that I missed was my people. It wasn't as much about, because it was strenuous work on my body after doing it for so long. My shoulders hurt, my wrists hurt, my hands hurt. So, right. And so I was like, I wish there was a way to still connect with people. And then all of this was kind of happening and it all just kind of like, okay, well, I'll build a website. I took a couple foundations courses with Rick Levine.
Nice.
And I got really serious about my studies. And I figured I'm just going to put it out there. And I know I'm a student. I'm approaching it as such. If cool stuff happens, cool stuff happens. And so many cool things have happened as a result.
Yeah, I mean, we all have to start somewhere. I think it's personally, you know, you're like, well, I want to like start reading charts for people, and you like question yourself, like, oh, am I good enough to do that? And at some point, you just have to dive in and stop questioning things, because you have to like start at some point. And what are some other courses or, you know, books that really helped you study?
I started out with the Astrology Hub community, and I was in their inner circle. And so I took, and that's how I found Rick Levine as well. I took his Foundations 1 and 2 course, and then I did his Patreon apprenticeship program for a while.
Cool.
And then through Astrology Hub, I had access to like a monthly, are you familiar? I guess there's a monthly intensive course with like one astrologer per month. I've since, yeah, it's a neat program. I've since gotten away from it. They've changed some things, and I've had to stop consuming so much outside. I've had to turn back in a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that, and then through that, I like Demetra George, obviously, Cosmos and Psyche, which I still honestly haven't even made my way all of the way through yet. Chris Brennan, I'm a Patreon subscriber of the Astrology podcast. I was, yeah.
Me too. Do you show up at the forecast filming at all?
No, I've never made it to one of those, unfortunately, but I would like to.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you have 3 hours or so, it's a long process, you know, but I think it's cool to look at, you know, the behind the scenes a little bit and hear them talk to each other just casually. It's a cool glimpse into that, which I really like and appreciate. And then you get to kind of get the forecast sooner than when they release it on YouTube. Nice. So
I think the Astrology podcast is just a great, what Chris Brennan does with it, the service he provides is wild, which is, we could probably do a whole episode on just that, but yeah. It's the value there in it. With that said, as somebody new and just starting out, if you listen in and you see, shit, this is 4 hours long and I have no idea what they're talking about, take what you can, come back to it. You can always revisit things. You can always like, don't let that piece of it intimidate you.
It's like a language, right? Like you said, and you're listening to something fluent in that language and you don't quite know all the words yet, and you don't know it yet. The more you listen to it, the more you start to get it, and then eventually you become fluent, but it takes time.
It does take
time. Don't rush the process.
Don't rush it. You can't, you just can't. So yeah, and that's where I started with the Astrology Hub again. I don't know if I would, their podcasts are great. I don't know what their like paid education stuff is like right now, just because I'm not in that anymore. Yeah, that's where, those are a couple resources that, and if I'm an audio person, like I like to listen. I do enjoy reading Cosmos, but how do you start with Cosmos and Psyche? I don't know. Get like a cookbook. I think Parker's Astrology was like my first cookbook, which is just a book of, you know, Mars and Aquarius means, like a little paragraph or two about it. So yeah, that's Right.
Yeah, I
And
think those are good resources.
just sit with it and feel it all.
In your personal life, how do you use astrology for you?
Like all practices, it goes in waves. Some days it's laying on the floor and talking to Venus.
Okay.
Some days it's meal prepping for the week because I try to be aware and do things with intention, but I don't necessarily like, I can only do podcasts on Wednesday because Mercury's day, or
Right. Yeah.
right, like full moons are only no plans on. Yeah, I have to, right, like there has to be a balance there.
Yeah.
But for me, my practice is it's really been a personal thing, and it's because I'm still so new. It's been, who are you, Neptune? What does Neptune feel like? What does Neptune smell like? What does Neptune taste like? What is it like? And sitting with those things with myself so that I can carry that over into just the conversations that I have with people. I have used astrological transits to make purchases and things. Like, I'm not going to say I haven't, but it's not, you know.
Yeah, so it's not like super intense. You're just like, listen,
Yeah,
if
I'm
there's a
aware.
transit and I'm able to act on it, maybe I will. And yeah, I think it's good to have a looser approach to that, not freak
And if
out.
my family, my husband, my kid, if either one is having, I try not to peek too hard, but I know their charts well enough to know, like, I'm not, you can have a bad day today, like, I'm here for you, but it makes me more aware. But I honestly, that carries over into a lot of, if I know there's some fiery, passionate alignment and somebody cuts me off,
yeah,
I'm not gonna like road rage on them like I would maybe want to,
You're
right?
Like, oh, Mars.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks, guy. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's good. So it makes you more compassionate to your family, and you're like, oh, because for me, sometimes I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And I take a moment and I look at the transit and I'm like, oh, that's why. Like, I'm not necessarily always like tracking it 100%, but if I notice there's some weird energy, I'll definitely take a look and be like, okay, that makes sense.
There it is.
Yeah. What do you lean towards as far as house systems in particular?
Yeah, a combination. I studied with Rick, so whole sign and Coke are kind of my go-to. Placidus, there's value there. Whole sign, when I am consulting whole sign, when I'm just looking and playing and looking at my friends or looking at myself or having kind of a deeper conversation, I'll look at both, but I'm always considerate of what's going on, I think, either way.
Okay. And as far as, it seems like you're more of a Western astrologer. Do you dabble in any of the Eastern?
No, I've not gotten into Eastern. I just started to kind of tap into the more traditional Hellenistic stuff. And Eastern, no.
It's a whole different ballgame over there.
Yeah.
But
which is why I haven't, because I'm so like, I want to build my foundation and have an understanding before I.
Yeah, it's a little hard to go back and forth.
And keep it straight for what, yeah.
For sure. Yeah, that's how I feel too. Are you pretty open about your interest in astrology, or do you find yourself sort of keeping that to yourself in certain instances?
I don't feel as though it's my job to convince anyone of anything.
Right.
So if it's brought to me and there's a conversation, cool, but I'm not going to astrology. What's your chart?
Yeah. And how's your husband in all of this? Does he know, or is he interested?
I have the best partner. I really, really do. He is so supportive of me. He's always been supportive. We've been together for like 11 or 12 years, and he's supported me through all of it, whether or not he understands it. I mean, do I understand it some days, right? Like, there's a lot of pieces to understand, but he, it's originally, when I first started out, I support this. I mean, his life was impacted when I quit working, right? So there were a lot of conversations and he ultimately was like, yeah, do it. So but is he like, I'm having a day, and I can't even say that because he has kind of like, what's going on? Like, why are people like, but so he's open and he's appreciative, but he's not gonna like
go study it on his own.
Watch the astrology podcast for 3 hours with me. He has watched bits and pieces, but
that's so cute. overall, do you feel like your life is more improved doing astrology or paying attention to astrology?
I do. And I think the biggest takeaway has been just I've been so much more understanding of myself and how I relate to others, that it's been to be able to hold that space with somebody. It's just so profound. And it's not being an influencer astrologer, right? It's this one moment. It's this one moment of time that can just set this whole new thing in motion for somebody. And that, yeah, that's so cool. But it's done that for me. And then just how I relate to others and how I think of others. And I don't take things personally like I used to.
Mm,
I don't know. Does that make sense? I feel like, yeah, I feel like
totally.
I just brought a lot of, okay.
No,
I brought
yeah,
a lot of,
it gives you an in for like certain things that are intimate that you wouldn't really know how to approach before. And also
yeah,
compassion, because now you can kind of understand all the different types of people and why someone might act like that and
yeah,
understand it from an astrology perspective. So yeah, I can totally get what you're trying to say, because that's, that's how it's improved my life too. Not being so mad all the time about certain things, because you're like, well, there's an explanation, like
yeah.
why,
Because
instead of
there's just,
asking why.
there's that thing that sticks in the back of your mind of there's something so much bigger at play.
Mhm.
It's not back to the somebody cut me off. I don't know why that's my thing tonight, but so that can happen. And it's not somebody cut me off, I'm gonna turn this into a thing about me. It's there's just something bigger going on.
Yeah,
And just to be aware of it is
yeah.
huge.
Is there any development you would like to see with your position in the astrology community?
This is so neat. And this was what I was super excited to kind of jump into, because I I have a community. I have a little astrology group. There's 4 of us. We've been meeting for months now, just to support each other and kind of be there for each other. And we're all at such different levels of learning and practicing. I think I'm probably the babyest of the group, the youngest astrologer. And so we've been meeting monthly just to kind of support each other, talk transits, talk life, talk any of it, all of it. So we actually just started recording these conversations because they're great conversations,
Mhm.
and we all have different backgrounds and different stories. And we just get into some really cool, relevant things that aren't always talked about, kind of
Mm,
those bigger ideas that it feels like a lot of the astrology community has made this like odd effort to keep itself from. It feels like the
mm,
whole like masking, vaccination, transgender rights and freedoms, like all of these like taboo kind of
mhm,
underground, like I just feel like there's a really big group, and maybe this is just the group or like the what I see, my experience of it. I just feel like there's a lot of people that are like so all over the spectrum with it. There's the like people that concern me about like cult leader type things, and
mm,
then there's the people that I'm like, you can't love and light your way out of the fall of an empire. And
mm.
there's not a lot of like the middle real life representation of what's actually happening in
Yeah.
people's lives.
I notice people tiptoe around those issues too. And
Yeah,
I think because they have their platform and they want to be careful,
exactly.
so
Yeah,
people don't unfollow, I see
I
where they're
don't have a
coming from.
platform.
Yeah, but I'm such a like social justice warrior. I
Yeah,
hate calling myself that, but
I know.
moon in the
Yeah,
third, like in Libra, and I'm just
yeah,
like, you know, say what you feel like because you will attract people that appreciate your opinion, and some things need to be said. And if people unfollow you, like whatever, like if you live in an abundance mindset, mostly, there's enough people for you, and you
yeah,
don't need to so every single person on the internet because you're in a neutral standpoint. um
yeah.
yeah, and some things need to be
It doesn't feel
addressed.
real. It doesn't feel real to me. Like
Yeah,
I cannot be and I have a lot of earth in my chart. So I can't be an earthling and like experience earth school and not talk about like some of these issues, whether
yeah,
they
it's
be
like
social
hello.
justice. Like, we've got to start. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then there's this whole other side of it that's like we're gonna ascend to 12D and your astro lineage. And that isn't quite my thing either. so it's just been this like, so who, where? And so my friend, my little astro group, we got together and that's how that started. And so I hope more of that.
So you've been filming those sessions,
Yeah.
and do you
Yeah.
plan on posting them on
Yeah.
YouTube or something? Because I'm
Yeah.
interested.
So we recorded the first one like a week or two ago. I have an odd relationship with time.
Recently.
Yeah, recently. So that was our first recording, and we've never recorded this before. So we are, and that's the other thing that we like, this video is not perfect. It's not, it's very much shoestring. We're four human beings
Yeah, it's
talking
just
on
natural,
computers. Very,
not really curated and contrived.
and I don't see a whole lot of that out
Yeah.
there. But then it's also that like, is social media necessary? I don't know
Like,
if social media is, but podcasts might be. I don't know.
yeah, I mean, you never know who needs to hear what you're talking about and who would appreciate to come across your stuff. It is very intimidating to put something online these days because
Yeah.
so many people might see it and you don't know what the reaction will be. And I've been struggling with this for so long. I've been trying to make YouTube content pretty much forever, and I'll like post something and then delete it or like private it,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, oh, so it's tough, and you just have to have like guts and just post it. I filmed an interview recently with Christopher Chow, and I'm going through it. I'm like, how much do I want to edit this? Like, do I just not edit it, or how do I do this? So it is an interesting point of view to like, okay, and I think there's a place for more natural conversations and
Yeah.
not so produced content online. I think we might be a little bit missing that, since that's how the internet used to be, and it turned into all of this highly produced situation content. So yeah, I would be really interested to see
Yeah.
what that is like.
So we're calling our little group and we just came up. No, we might have come up with this the meeting before we recorded. It's Off the Chart Astrology
Oh
is
my God,
our,
I love
is,
that.
Allie, I think, came up with that. And it's, so I believe this is all still so new. Like I haven't, yeah, I'll get you the exact YouTube handle, but I believe it's just Off the Chart Astrology.
I love that name. That's so clever.
They said it, and we were like, yes, that's the
Yes.
one, because it just it resonates on so many different levels. It's just,
Yeah.
it's great. Yeah.
That's so cool. Who are some like up and coming astrologers that you admire?
So in the Off the Chart group, we all met in Rick Levine's apprentice class. That's how we all connected, and we all just kind of like sidebarred from there. And then we started our own little just support group for that, essentially. And through that, I met, her name is Cory Nakasue. She's been a professional astrologer for quite a while. She's kind of taken me on as a mentee, and she's become my mentor. And we are working on some really cool things that I'm really excited about. But she's somebody that isn't super all over social media. Like this is, so she hosts a radio show in Kingston, New York called The Cosmic Dispatch. So what I'm helping her do is turn that into more of a podcast form as well as the live radio show. So we're having these conversations of like, how necessary is social media? Do we have to, is that a necessary thing? So she's not active on like she is on social media, but it's not a super active thing for her. So you would have to find her through her website, and she has a couple of them, and I can send you links if you want links for things.
You want to shout her website out right now?
Yeah, I believe it's Astrology by Cory, but let me, because she has, so we have Astrology by Cory. And then
Cory?
It's Cory.
Okay.
And then her last name is Nakasui. If you Google her, things will pop up. Articles she's written, podcasts she's co-hosted other radio shows. She's done a lot of like body work as well. Her last name is Nakasue. And she's just got a really cool perspective on things. And I'm just really looking forward to working with her. The radio show that she hosts is called The Cosmic Dispatch. And that's on radiokingston.org. It's their local radio station. Yeah. So I'm really excited about that. That's kind of been where a lot of my focus has been. Other than that, Eric B. Healed is his Instagram handle. Are you familiar with him?
I don't think so.
I don't know his, I think he just goes by Eric, the letter B, and then Healed. I really like every Sunday he does an Instagram live where he does a tarot reading for the week and relates it to the astrological transits and things. I really like his work. He's great. Those are the two big ones that I like are fresh in my mind at the moment. I probably should have thought a little bit more about that.
No worries. Yeah, no, that's good. I haven't heard of them, so I would love to,
Oh, there we go. Okay.
get more exposure. That's awesome. And hopefully people will check them out, whoever sees this,
Yeah,
So good.
I'm gonna make sure Cory's website. I gave that to you, right? So she has CoryNakasue.com as well as astrologybycory.com.
Awesome. Yeah, and I can link her stuff in the description.
Okay.
Yeah. What makes someone an astrologer, and do you think certification is important?
I think about this a lot. I think anybody can be an astrologer. I think a self-practice with astrology, I think an awareness of considerations made. I think there are different ways to astrologize. I don't think everybody needs to become a professional astrologer or a consulting astrologer, but I think there can be solo practitioners. I don't see why not. If you keep a moon journal and which is something I talk a lot with people about, is just a quick and easy way to touch it and to bring it down. Notice the moon sign and notice how you feel. That's astrology. You are, are you a professional astrologer? No. Should you become a consulting astrologer if that's the extent of it? No, but you're astrologizing and there's value there. The certification thing, I want to be mindful because a lot of the people that I look up to are certified somewhere, and I think that's great, and I think that that's been important, and I don't know if it's as important now. For me personally, I do have astrology friends that are seeking certification as this, I think, I did this thing as proof, right? I've taken classes. I plan to keep taking classes. I hold no certifications. It's that weird balance between who's the governing body? How do they get selected? What are their values? Do they change if it becomes more commercial and more big? And are we going to have big astrological universities? Does that system become as corrupt as the current one? Right? I just think there's a lot of, it's not important to me right now. Will I maybe change my mind? I've changed my mind about more bizarre things. There should be this code of ethics, but is that a self-governing thing? Is that, that's, I don't know. The character piece, I think, is because it's going to, I'm thinking of the cliche or the quote, time will promote you, or what is it? Have you heard that? Time will either promote you or it's not demote, expose you maybe.
Oh, yeah.
I think the whole mainstream, arguably capitalization of astrology right now, I think a lot of people see an opportunity and I think a lot of people have jumped on it. I think give those people a couple years and see who's still left. Because a piece that I feel like a lot of new people miss is that there's something to be said for living through the astrology. We can sit and we can read and we can converse and we can, but to sit with it and to sit in a bathtub late at night when nobody else is awake, this is how I do it, and to just look at it, and you can't rush that process. You can't rush what it feels like to be inside of something. You can't force that. You can't recreate that. You can't.
The experience
there's an organic,
is so important rather than just reading it in a book,
and then regurgitating that to somebody else and then charging them crazy amounts of money for it, right?
I like being able to tell people well, what happened to me was this. It's well, this is what actually happened in my life when this transit happened, and doesn't mean that will happen to you, but here's an example. Between a hobby, a practice, or a career, where does astrology sort of fit for you?
I think in life, it could be any of those things for anybody, depending on their path. I think for me, it's the word career, just it's the monetization of this thing that I love, and that's always cringe. I have, as a business owner, I've navigated some of that terrain before. So like we live in a capitalistic society. It is what it is. For me, it's a practice. It's something I would like to be able to do to support myself.
Do you feel there's a difference in between like a science, an art, or a philosophy with astrology?
I think it's blendy and all over the place. I would like to see more science, astrology merging, blending, because it used to be that way. It's not, obviously, and I wish there was more work done there. I do think it's an art because I think it's a language, and I think that it can inspire people to like make art, but then I think also just what you do with it, your craft, I think that to me is art. And philosophy. I mean,
I mean, it is certainly everything. And in the past, we had astrologers that were astronomers, and they were just the same thing. And now we have astronomers that would hate to be called an astrologer. And yeah, I agree. I wish it wasn't like that.
It's just, and I get it, like, but it's science has become like this holy, you can't question it thing. And I don't say that as a science skeptic, because I'm not. But it's also this, like, there's only one me that was born at this spot on this day at this time that had the experiences I had. We just can't replicate that. We can't duplicate that.
Right.
So I think there's this, for that to happen, there has to be this shift in what is science? What is natural science? Is it eternally duplicatable? Is it, I can't,
do you think that science will be able to eventually validate astrology, or do you feel like they won't, and is it even necessary? I don't know.
Do I think the potential's there? Yes. Do I think that we now are capable? Yes. But do I think that, I don't know.
But are we ready?
Are we ready? Are we ready? That's the big one, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to say as far as, we can get data for certain things that happen to certain people on certain transits and everything, but I think it sort of runs away from us. And there is something of a mystery that is attached to it that makes it so interesting and personal that certain things are subjective. And so, it is interesting to think about if it's even possible to validate it with science. But then I also ask myself, astronomers, how do they not like ask is there more meaning to what I'm studying? Like,
I think maybe the blinders that come with dedicating your life to a thing, right? Like they may be so focused on the proving piece of it that to venture outside of this framework. And some probably do grapple with it, and they may not want to talk about it because they're gonna
could be like ostracized.
So I think and I think that conversations like this and like what we've talked about in other situations, it's just these real life conversations, I think will maybe hopefully shed some light or motivation on those things.
Astrology certainly has been developing in recent times, so it's reasonable to think that it could evolve further into something that we can't even imagine. So and especially with the Changing of the Gods documentary coming out, I loved hearing them talk about what would you like to see for astrology in the future, and the answer was integrating it more into society, more into like psychology, using it more to kind of help run things and decide when to do things and all of that. So perhaps that is the future.
From a parent's perspective, to look at my kiddo's birth chart and understand his Mercury placement, his moon placement, like even just to be able to know that and to parent towards that. I mean, there it could be anywhere. I mean, a full circle, I guess, right? Like it can be such a vast, big, helpful tool. And
especially for parents, because you are in their birth chart.
Educators.
Yes.
I mean,
psychologists particularly, I
for
feel.
sure.
I was just reading, I just posted yesterday that document that was flying around, Carl Jung. It was a letter that he wrote to like his cohort that was like, yeah, I have been using astrology and I think there's some value to it and I don't know how to explain it, but I use it and I think it works. So it was like, whoa,
That's huge. I haven't seen that. I'll have to go look for that.
Yeah, maybe I'll send that to you. I thought about posting it. I was going to post it.
Oh,
Maybe I'll
you
post
haven't posted it?
It was in my
Yeah.
story, but I didn't post it on
Okay.
my feed yet, but I think I will because,
You
you know,
should.
yeah, that I just saw it floating around. I don't know. I forgot where I found it, but I was like, whoa, like this renowned psychologist flatly stating like, hey, this works. I don't know why, but it does. And I use it. So that's
And
really
I think
validating.
it's really validating, but it's also just very like, maybe we don't have to understand why for it
Right.
to be, you know, like we
Because
get
if
so
there's
hung up
something
on that.
big at work, like you said, like it's bigger than what we can even imagine, then would we even be able to explain it? And is that really important? Just kind of let it be. If it works, it works. Maybe our minds are not able to comprehend that. And that is
Yes.
okay to just sit with too,
Yes.
not try to like push it too far, you know? I think there's some value to just like accepting that, you know?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. Like I don't know why exactly it works,
It's
but
beautiful.
it
Just
is,
take it
and
for
it's
what it is.
helpful.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Biggest misconception about astrology.
The biggest misconception about astrology, I think, is just not understanding what it can do and just
Mhm.
not even being, I think, well, I don't resonate with my sun sign horoscope in the newspaper, so it's dumb. I don't think that's, I wish more people understood how nuanced it was and how deep it is.
Right.
Because there does seem to be this misconception that if you don't align with your sun sign horoscope at the teen magazine, that it must not be real.
Mhm.
And it's like, well, yeah, that's not real. Like that's not really the only piece. I
Yeah.
don't think that either. There was a Rick conversation that I recently listened to, and he was making the I forget who or when in time it was, but there was somebody, I think it was a story about like a professor, or no, it was a theologian, maybe a priest or something. And the guy comes in and he's yeah, it must have been, he's confessing his sins. And he sits down and he says, I got to be honest with you, I don't believe in God. And the priest says, yeah, me neither. And the guy's like, what? And he's like, yeah, well, whatever it is that you think of as God, I don't believe in that either. Right.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah, same. So yeah, like I don't probably believe in some of those.
Yeah, because we're sort of validating that skeptical viewpoint, which is like, well, of course, like you're right. You know, this is mumbo
Yeah.
jumbo when when you look at something that you haven't studied and you're just reading someone's generalized opinion about what this might mean right now. Of course, it's not, going to be super accurate all the time, because it's not personalized to you. So, on that point, you're validating their thought process. And it goes back to the misconception, which is like, there's more to this. You have, a moon sign and a rising sign, and you have an
How are they
entire birth
talking to each
chart.
other? Like,
Yeah,
are
yeah.
you looking at your asteroids?
Yeah,
Are we
it's
doing?
all together. It's not just one thing. As far as people thinking astrology is a scam, what would you say to them?
There are scammers out there. There are hairdressers that are scammers. There
Mhm.
are mechanics that are scammers. There are
They're
roofers
everywhere.
that are scammers. I think it's important to practice discernment in everything that we do. And I think that if you have questions about who a good person to reach out to in regards to learning more about astrology or getting a reading, I think, how do you go about that? Like without knowing stuff, right? I don't know. I haven't thought about this much.
What are some like red flags that you would tell people to look for to avoid scammers?
Okay. I can heal you.
Mm-hmm.
Let me give you a reading.
Mm-hmm.
I've got all the answers. If we should meet monthly for this amount of time, for this amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the big ones.
Your ancestors told me to talk to you.
No, here's the thing. No respectable no respectable practitioner, and I say this as somebody who has built a word of mouth business in real life, in earth time, like not online. It's there is an element of networking, but nobody's going to DM your ancestor. No, just nobody's gonna do that.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I hope that conversation just goes away soon. It's like the phishing emails, right? Or like, I feel like it's what's hot now, and it'll go away soon, hopefully. But
yeah, it happens. They're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
You just have to see the signs of it and use discernment, like you said.
What I find more alarming than the scammers is the like culty vibes.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to say without like airing people out, I think, but what are some like red flags for that?
That's a great question. I don't want to see it.
Well, when you think about, go ahead.
Like the whole ascending to 12D, Earth A and Earth B, the Earth is going to split, and we're gonna.
Yeah. So there's
ahead.
something of a metaphorical carrot dangling strategy that people can come up with, like, I'm going to sell you an idea and then we're all going to believe this. And I somehow
the only way to know is to buy my course.
Yeah. So you have to invest in me so that you don't get behind or get, you have to follow what I say or else XYZ.
Don't eat these things because they're low vibe.
Yeah.
Maintain high vibes constantly. Mm-hmm. Those things are red flaggy to me, because life's not all fucking rainbows and sunshine and lollipops. Look outside of your window. And to me, am I going to say it? It's like white spiritual leader women that are just like, take my course, take my trip, and it's big. And here's what's like the most fucked up about it to me is that there are people doing that I don't think are problematic. I just don't think that they're the ones that are being.
Yeah, I think there's an element we could connect with as far as like white saviorism in that way, where, they're some people are good hearted and they mean well, but they get caught up in this thing where they want to save people.
Yeah.
And it's like, who are you to save anyone? Like,
I don't want that responsibility.
Saved from
I don't
what?
want I that's just not my decision. Like, I know
it automatically puts that person like above you, like, oh, I need to save you because I'm better than you. Like, so I think as far as the culty mindset, if they're putting themselves above you on a pedestal, that's one red flag. If they are really humble and they're like, I love hearing astrologers say like, I'm learning. I don't know all the answers. Here's where I am
studying. I quit my job to study astrology 2.5, almost 3 years ago. And I am a student. I will always be a student of astrology.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that, but I feel like anybody that I would want to invest my time and energy into is always going to maintain that learning mindset, that student mindset about it. Nobody's going to know all of it.
Yeah, it's literally impossible to know everything. Even like, someone like Chris Brennan or Rick Levine.
He's been doing it for 50 years, and
is he an expert in Vedic astrology? Is like, I'm sure there's some things that he's not, well versed in. You can't know everything. You can be an expert on your like specialties and stuff like that, but at a certain point, like if you're calling yourself someone who knows everything, or you're
a master astrologer, there's like 4 people that I would ever call a master astrologer, right? Like,
that's just very hard to become.
It's very hard to become, but then also like, why are you getting into it? Like, if you want to become an astrologer and your goal is to like fast track to master astrology, like, what are you doing? What's
your intention really? Because that's, I think that's part of the capitalistic mindset of just like, if I call myself this, then people will like buy my course or whatever. And then, I don't know. It's fast tracking themselves where they need to really just like chill out and look at themselves in a more realistic way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, pop astrology, meme astrology. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
The amount of hours I've spent talking about this with my little off the chart astrology group.
It's a loaded subject because it's
A very
everywhere.
loaded one. It's
And
everywhere, and there's value there.
What are some things about it that might be not great?
Just the whole, it's one. Are you reading for your sun sign? Are you reading for your rising sign? How do your sun and rising sign have a relationship with each other? How are they communicating? What are they? It goes back to that whole, that's one, at minimum 1/12, or at most 1/12 of your whole thing that's going on. Like, it's just not enough information to, they're fun.
Yeah.
Do I think this horoscopes are fun and great? I do. I think again, there's great value there, but it's not the end all be all. And that's the memes. I've had so many people, well, this meme of Snow White that says that Pisces says that. I don't do that. Yeah. Okay, you don't have it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, it's fun. And if you
Yep.
take it deeper than that, then that's where you're going to run into issues because it is not nuanced. It is not,
How can you express somebody's lived experience through a meme that somebody
this is the thing we
produced?
said about, horoscope sun signs is that it's just one take of someone and, you might laugh at it, but don't take it to heart and don't take it too serious because that's really all it's supposed to be. It's fun. It gets
It's a door
people,
opener.
aware. I think it gets people interested because then they can relate to it in some way and get kind of more into it.
It also, and this was something we more recently talked about, it also like creates this like chatter so that maybe the language becomes a little bit more familiar. Whether people
Yeah.
are resonating with it or not, they're hearing it, they're reading it, they're consuming it. So in theory, it's seed planting. Now, whether those seeds turn into beautiful tomatoes that you get to turn into salsa or it dies, right? Like,
Yeah, it's
you
helpful
still
in
have to
that way
nurture
of like
seeds.
exposure to certain
Yes.
concepts, but
Yeah.
don't put it on a pedestal or take it too far. It's just, kind of surface level stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you recommend that everybody get their chart read?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't see why not. I think some people are going to be more into it than others. And I think some people are still going to have a chart. They could have, I think, here's what I think. I think there are people in the world that you could set them up with the greatest consultant of all. They get a reading with Rick. They consult with Rick. Rick nails it. He's like, yeah, but, and they could still, that person could still walk away and not care or not give a shit or still think it's all bullshit. I mean, it's get it. Yeah. But I don't expect everybody to have that. Like,
I agree with that. Sometimes, people like my mom who want the best for me and want me to have clients and stuff, they're like, oh, I could tell them to get a reading from you. And I'm like, I really appreciate that, Mom, but I really want to be sought out by people that want it, that are looking for it. Because if I just go and read someone that doesn't really know or care, it's not going to really mean anything to them.
well, there's a reason why people seek out consultations and readings, right? It's not generally, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and have this new idea that I'm going to wake up tomorrow with a thought. I'm going to have my chart read without or never having put any thought into that. There's generally something big that happens. And unfortunately, more often than not, it's usually a traumatic event or a catastrophic event or something really big. And there's probably weight in that. There's more weight in something with that like base than just, hey, I just met. Do you want a reading? It's
very empty.
Yeah.
You're not in seeker mode. But see, that's kind of funny that you said that because one of my most popular tweets, I was pinned to my profile for a while. It was learning astrology is a trauma response. And because that's true for me. And it is, it's one of them. And like you said, like a traumatic event makes you want to have an explanation because you are looking for a resolution to that situation. And if you could just explain it somehow, then it could somehow make it easier for you to come to terms with.
And it shows you that things come to an end. Like no bad transit lasts forever.
Right.
No, hopefully, no incredibly super traumatic situation is going to last forever. Can it last a long time and it feel like forever? Yeah. But generally speaking, there's going to be a moment of at least a lessening in or of. You know what to pace yourself for. You know how to, okay, this I'm having this transit through my ninth house. It's 9 years. There's been this buildup for about this long. It's going to be probably really intense for this long around this time, and then it's going to taper, and it just helps.
It does. Yeah. What's your relationship to religion?
I'm good with it.
Mhm.
Like, I have a ninth house son. I appreciate philosophy. I appreciate all world religions.
Mhm.
I think they're good. And the issue that arises with religion is what people do with it. It's
Right.
not the religion itself or
Mhm.
the books, the philosophies. It's what people do with it and
The
how they use
practice.
it. And when they use it to oppress people or to keep people from thinking for themselves. And yeah,
Mhm.
I don't like that.
Mhm, mhm.
But treating people good, which I feel like all religions touch on, like there's great value there. There's great story there. It can be a very beautiful thing.
Mhm. And not to mention that
not.
there's a lot of astrology in the holy books as well that people may or may not
Exactly.
realize is there.
So before astrology, I was an atheist, probably is how I would describe
Okay.
myself. And only since getting into astrology have I really been like, there's something.
Yeah, what is going on here?
There's like a big thing that
How do
I
we explain
don't.
this?
Yeah, yeah. Do I think it's like a white man sitting in a cloud passing judgment down on me if I have sex before I'm married? I don't.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
something's
there's
afoot.
value there. Just yeah, be good to people.
Mhm.
Be nice, be kind. And I think if you're able to separate yourself from like a dogmatic religion and you're able to see others and read about other religions and where other religions come from, you you see the common thread, and I think
Mhm.
that common thread is what's important on earth. And then I remember my exact thought now. I think astrology and like whatever's going on there is bigger than somebody sitting in a cloud passing down judgment. Like that to me seems like a very small minded, right?
Yeah.
Like small. That's not a god to me. Like that's a jerk, right?
Seriously
Like,
though.
yeah, like fuck
Yeah.
that guy. We
Yeah.
don't like him. But yeah, but how do you explain that to somebody that's been so indoctrinated? And then that's where I have to remind myself too, it's not my job.
Yeah. How do you explain how the planets affect us?
So this is a fun question, and I don't have a good answer, but
Mhm.
I think of it as a carousel. It's a cosmic carousel,
Oh,
and we're on it. Some people notice it, some people don't. Um, yeah, it's are you aware of standing on the earth and the earth spinning and rotating and moving through
right.
space? No, but it is.
Mhm.
And we know that we may
Mhm.
not have like the factual proof that the moon affects our bodies, but we
Mhm.
know it affects the tides of the ocean. And we know that animals have migratory patterns based on different seasons and positions of planets and suns and moons and things. Pattern recognition, people are great at it and some people aren't.
Uh-huh.
Some people care, some people don't.
Mhm.
It's pattern recognition, and it doesn't mean that it's the end all be all or that this is going to happen. But
Yeah.
when it's the weather, it's the cosmic weather.
Mhm.
It's I'm going on vacation to Belize. Is it hurricane season?
Mhm.
Do I need to pack a raincoat, or am I going to
Right.
be drinking on the beach in a bikini the whole time? Right. And in my opinion, in my view, you can't know that that's an option. I couldn't know that that's like a little bit of an option and not consider it. But
Mhm. Right. Yeah. It's like, why wouldn't you want
like,
to know?
yeah,
You can
yeah.
go
But
through life
if
a little
everything's the
easier.
same, yeah, yeah.
Mhm. What is your take on predetermination and free will?
I am still very much figuring it out. I think at the root of what I feel and think and believe right now, I think that they can coexist. I don't know that I believe in predetermination to the degree of like everything is fated
Yeah.
across the board.
Mhm.
I think of predetermination more as like situational.
Mhm.
Like maybe there was a situational thing that was unavoidable, but the extent to which it played out, I think,
Yeah.
depending on how we interact with it, can
Mhm.
vary.
As far as like reincarnation and like past lives, do you work with that or believe in that?
I don't personally do I don't do like client work with any of that. I have
Mhm.
my own practices. I have sources that I feel like come from other realms.
Mhm.
I I'm sure I've been here before. Um, was I a cat or a human? I don't know. Was I
Mhm.
male or female? I don't know a
Mhm.
lot of the details about it, but I get a feeling that this isn't my first time, and I get a feeling that it's most of us have been here before. Where we come from, I don't know.
Yeah.
Have we been other places? I don't know.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna say no. I don't know though.
So yeah, you don't personally like work with that in your practice, but you are still like, I think there's probably
I
something
have
there. Yeah.
guides and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I have I a large part of what I've been doing has just been like ancestral healing and trauma, generational trauma healing and things. And so yeah, there's something there, but yeah, I
Mhm.
don't know. And I don't, it's, that's my thing. And I have Scorpio IC, so, and my third house. So I, I have to still have something for me. And if I can't have astrology just for me because of how powerful and helpful I think it is, then at least I can have like that for me. So
Mhm.
yeah, I don't currently do anything else
Yeah.
with spiritual stuff. Yeah.
Do you believe we choose our own birth charts, which would mean we choose all of our hardships?
Man, these loaded questions, I love them
Mhm.
so much. And we could do an episode like
I know each one
to
of
talk for
these is
hours
just
on
so
each one of
heavy.
these. Okay. Say it one more time for me.
Do we choose our own birth charts?
Do we choose our own birth charts? Yes, I do think that we do.
Mhm.
I do think that we
So that
do.
would mean we choose our hardships.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I do.
And
To
what do you
some,
think is the value of that? Like choosing certain hardships for ourselves?
I think it's evolution of the soul.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think we pick what we need. And I don't, here's what I don't like, I guess, about saying that, yes, I think that we pick our charts. And yes, I think that like we pick our hardships.
Mhm.
That sounds so dismissive of
Okay.
trauma that people have lived.
Right.
And
Right.
that's never my goal or my
Right.
intention through any of this work.
Right.
With that said, I think that the reason why, or the value in choosing a more difficult or a more easy chart is I think that's like past life stuff. I think that's earth school. I think this is the lessons that we need this time for ultimate evolution of soul.
Mhm.
What that leads to, I don't know.
Yeah.
Why, I don't know.
Is there
But
like a
that's what I
karmic thing
believe.
in there that?
Yeah. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, I do think so. But again, I could never look a person going through the most horrendous experience of their lives in their face and say, well, you
And
chose
victim
this for
shame
yourself.
them. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I no,
Absolutely.
no. But do
Mhm.
I think that there is some level of predetermined? Yes.
Yeah, I like that distinction. That's very important because someone going through horrible, horrible things, you wouldn't want to make them feel even worse by saying like, well, you chose
No.
it, you
You
know?
picked it.
But
No.
but on the other side, I think there's like a time and a place to sort of look back on certain things and
Yeah.
feel ready to say like, okay, well, now that I'm on the other side of it, I can see why it was important for me to go through that, even if it was awful. And a lot of that has to do with the timing of which you're bringing it up or you're thinking about it. Um,
Yeah.
time and place, time and place. Like if something
Yeah.
traumatic is happening to someone right now, it's not the best time to like tell them like, oh, you chose this. But I mean, in hindsight, I think it can even like free us and make us feel like
Yes.
less like life is happening to me and more of like I chose that because I needed it. And it makes you feel like you have more control over your
The
life as opposed
strength
to,
that can be found through
yeah.
that is when you can step outside of it and realize the strength required to get through it.
Mhm.
I mean, that's a level of self-actualization that you can't get in through any other experience. Just, I mean,
Mhm.
you just can't. It's like trying to explain childbirth to somebody who's
Yeah,
never,
you just have to go through
like
it.
you just have to kind of dark night of the soul it. And
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, with that said, again, it can be really dark, it can be really scary, and it can be really profoundly just dark is what dark for people, and that's not something to be taken lightly. And if people feel that way, obviously I want them to reach out and get help. But what I also want people to maybe start to do is, if you know that you have somebody in your life that tends to get dark during different times or things or certain, and you notice a shift in them, I feel like more people should be more observant and reach out when they noticed a shift in behavior in people. And not that you have to like, whoa, I haven't seen you post on social media for 3 weeks. Are you okay?
Mhm.
Or 2 days. Are you okay? But if it's been 3 weeks and you know that this person has a tendency towards getting really dark, reach out, because when you're dark and when you're in that place, it's not always to be the one to reach out. Sometimes you have to be pulled out and
Need help.
yeah, but it's not always on the person going through the dark thing to
It's
reach out
nice
for the
to have
help.
someone pay attention and like check up on you, because going through
Well,
things alone
yeah,
is horrible.
and it's, I notice a lot, like especially with like, maybe a little trigger warning, but like with suicide, when people, man, I wish she would have reached out. I wish she would have reached out.
Yeah.
Uh, I,
They're not in a place to do that.
they're
Like,
not in a place
yeah,
to do that, and who's to say they didn't? In a
yeah,
weird, fucked up, I'm in a dark place way.
yeah, yeah.
And not to make those still living feel like shit, because well maybe they did, but they're just, yeah, I think culturally there needs to be more honor in the darkness and
Mhm.
just more sympathy towards some of that stuff.
Yeah. And
I
I
don't know
think
if
that's
that
what I like
makes
about
sense.
astrology too, is that it can point to those moments in your life. And like I said before, like explain it like, okay, there's a reason why this is happening and this is when it will end. But I'm not crazy. I'm not just making something out of nothing. Like there's an explanation for this. And that's what I love about it. It makes you feel less alone. It makes you feel more validated. So that is the
Seen,
good
you can
side.
be seen in a
Yeah,
way
yeah.
that you
Feel
don't
seen
always
for
feel
sure.
seen. Yeah.
I've had clients say that too, like I finally feel seen, you know.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful practice, and I'm glad that I found it when I did, and I think it can help a lot of people. So yeah, it's an honor to like meet astrologers like you that genuinely are like they want to help people. They're not just here to capitalize on it, make money and whatever. They genuinely want to help. It's hard to find people like that in this world. So I'm glad that you're here, and people
Well,
can go and check you out.
yeah.
And again, that's all my questions for today. But yeah, I'm really grateful that you took time to answer all these crazy questions. And
This is
it's
what I live for.
good. Yeah, it's great
Yeah.
to get your perspective on everything. And I look forward to, seeing what you will do in the future. I'm gonna go check out your off the chart channel. And do you plan on going to any conferences? Oh, we talked about this. You said you were like tentative on
Yeah.
NORWAC,
Normac.
and then there's
Yeah.
the
So
ISAR coming in
is that
August.
August? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So my, I'm not making money with astrology, or like consistent money with astrology right now. And so my goal has been to my donation consultation thing. That is my NORWAC fund.
Mhm.
So
Oh,
all
that's
of the
cool.
donations I'm collecting. Yeah, I already got my ticket and I've got almost enough money for a plane ticket. So yeah, that's my mini goal for now, and
I
I'm
like
gonna
that
see how that
strategy.
goes. Thanks. Yeah, it allowed me to establish some healthy boundaries
Yeah.
between my home life and my astro life.
Mhm.
I
That's
don't have to
awesome.
go, hey, will you pay for? And I mean,
Yeah,
my husband's so supportive, but yeah.
for sure. Yeah. And it's sometimes hard to like, I like that you're donation based. And
Yeah.
I think that's a really important option that a lot of astrologers overlook. It's like people want your help, but if it's too expensive, then you're
Yeah.
leaving people out. So I think that's really nice. And
Thanks.
yeah,
Eventually
so
it will have to change. It just will, but not for a while. It's
mhm,
yeah.
for sure. And at
And
some
not
point,
unless
when we offer a lot of free content online at some point, and that helps. So at some point,
yeah.
you have to just charge for your time and everything. But I like that,
Yeah.
and I even have a donation option, like a donation based option. But
Nice.
it's at
I
least
don't
good to
see it a
have that.
lot.
Yeah, yeah. The good ones, they keep that as an option for people. Keep it in mind. It is a thing that you can do, and it's helpful. So
Yeah.
yeah, I appreciate that. But yeah, is there anything else that you wanted to add? Or I mean, I'll say your website again. It's Mandee Sheeler. I'll put it in the link in the description, and I will also link your Instagram. And you weren't anywhere else on social media?
No, I'm not. I do have a Facebook, but I don't use it for
Yeah.
social media. I just never got into Twitter. I'm
Mhm.
an elder millennial, and I don't know how I missed that, but I didn't ever. I'm not a big Twitter person. I know
Yeah,
AstroCulture is a thing.
I barely got in
Just
there. It was very
yeah,
overwhelming at first.
I don't know how I dodged that, but I did.
Yeah, and you don't
Yeah,
have
so
to
it's
have
just
all
Instagram.
forms. Like you were saying, like it's not the most
Sure.
important thing to just be all over social media. It's like the quality and content of your work will speak for itself, you know?
I think so. I
Yeah.
think so. I think we touched all the things. I did just want to say, like, thank you so much for doing this, because this is huge and it's powerful, and it may feel daunting to you at times, but it's so much needed. And I mean, we just talked for like 2 hours, and
Yeah.
that's
And
I
we could
appreciate
probably
that
still
so
keep
much.
going,
I know we could
but
probably keep, yeah. And who knows, maybe we'll get to chat like in person in Norwalk
yeah,
if
I'm
all of that
planning,
goes.
to keep it open for like in the future, like checking in, like part two,
Yeah.
so who knows what will happen, how we'll feel, and
Yeah.
different things that I can ask in the future. But
Yeah.
we will keep in touch, and I hope to see
Cool.
you at a conference soon. And
Yeah.
again, thank you so much for spending time with me and answering all my questions.
Thank you,
And I will
Amanda.
let you enjoy the night. And yeah,
Thanks again.
all
This is
right.
great. I had a really good time.
Yeah, thank you. And
Thanks, Amanda.
we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.